It is the day that ends with Y, which means, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said something ridiculous and stupid. Because, of course. And let me add, stupid. Okay. Now, on Thursday, the Congresswoman tweeted about how there was an astonishing 6 billion border crossings in the United States. Let me just note that population of the Earth is nearing 8 billion. Might have crossed that. A lot of people. Okay. And so, if there were 6 billion border crossings, that would be a lot. Way more than possible. Okay, but anyway, let me show you her tweet. Because, it is hilarious and stupid. 113 billion has been appointed to Ukraine in just a year. Trump's wall would have cost only 22. Congress refused to fund it. 6 billion people legally crossed our border since Biden took office. But Ukraine's border is the only border that matters to Washington. Let me just note that the reason that this country is the United States is sending money, well, one of the reasons I should say, that Ukraine is asking for and receiving a lot of that money is because, well, Russia happened to invade them with, tanks, artillery, troops, and drones, etc. And have been, killing them. Now, at the end of the day, look, I'm a peace activist, right? So I think the West should be trying to use its power or focus its power to broker peace. And not just sending weapons to weaken Russia. Now, the thing is, right, the aim here of the administration is to weaken Russia, and they've admitted this. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that this was more about weakening the Russians than actually defending Ukraine, even though we are effectively defending Ukraine, and I believe that Ukraine should have their sovereignty because against this Russian aggression. So it's a nuanced issue, right? I didn't want this to be a proxy war because people are dying, and we have defense contractors in both the United States and Russia that are getting rich off this conflict. So this conflict isn't good for anybody. And of course, Putin is obviously clearly the aggressor. Still, the United States and the rest of allied countries need to focus on finding ways to get Putin to end this destructive war while keeping Ukrainian sovereignty intact. That would be the ideal solution here. Okay? That said, back to Greene. She immediately deleted the tweet and shared a nearly identical corrected version. So either she, of course, had caught her mistake. Well, I think she did correct her mistake because she had caught it, because either she caught it or had, realized it when she had gotten called out and made fun of. Whatever. That said, she still had a mistake because she put out one that said 6 million instead of 6 billion, but at the same time, that's not right either. Let me give you some details on that. While data from the U.S. Border Patrol and Office of Field Operations indicate that while there have been millions, not billions of encounters with undocumented immigrants attempting to cross the border during the Biden administration, the exact number of successful illegal crossings is unknown. Oh. So, look, the reality here on immigration is the Biden administration has continued the majority of Trump's border policies, which are bad. There's no open borders, okay? The right will sit there and be, open borders, they're bringing them in. No, they're not. That's not the reality. In fact, a recently proposed White House rule that has been blasted by immigration activists would limit asylum eligibility at the border to migrants who previously applied for protection in another country en route to the United States. The same rule would also disqualify migrants who previously entered the country illegally. So now, the Trump administration had proposed two similar rules, but they were both struck down. Now, the Biden administration is bringing up a similar rule. So, look, other than not building the stupid wall, which would never have worked anyway because there are ways to get around walls, Biden hasn't really changed a whole lot when it comes to immigration. And so, of course, immigration activists are not happy about this. But neither am I. But that said, I don't expect Marjorie Taylor Greene to understand these things. I mean, she is, after all, only an elected member of Congress who was on the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Border Security and Enforcement. I mean, how much could she possibly know about that subject? Probably not at all, right? I mean, I wouldn't expect her to know anything. No, at the end of the day, or not, typo or not, she is still effectively pushing a false narrative, which is also nativist. And that, look, that narrative is, neo-Nazi-ish in origin, because the premise is that the United States is being invaded and attacked by migrants. Really? Really? I mean, look, these migrants are fleeing unstable countries to come to America to find a better life in this country. Partly because, again, the United States has had some impacts on the area, like, for example, the war on drugs and destabilizing, Latin American countries, et cetera, et cetera. So we know the history of this, right? Migrants, asylum seekers, refugees. That's who they are. They're not soldiers. They're not the same as the Russians that did invade a sovereign country. Even if I agree that we are spending billions and billions of dollars on weapons, without asking, of course, how we're going to pay for it, while at the same time considering spending cuts on domestic programs that help people, be able to survive as well. And at the same time, many Republicans are also openly talking about gutting things like Social Security and Medicare. They never ask, how are we going to pay for weapons and war? But they always ask how we're going to pay for social domestic programs. No, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.